So joining us right away is a seasoned marketing and growth expert with over 15 years of diverse leadership experience across banking, healthcare, insurance, the public sector, and marketing communications. Nkiruka Joel is Managing Director and CEO, Avenue Consultancy, a board member of Microfinance Bank, a prolific author, founder, the Boy Child Transformation Center, life member, Wimbees, and much more. Let's welcome our final guest today, who is equipped with very useful insights to adolescence, an eye on the boy child. It's so good to have you join us today.
Thank you very much.
Nkiru Joel, yes?
Yes, please.
That's good.
Fantastic.
Great.
Thank you so much.
Nkiru, when we had this conversation and we agreed on this topic, I said, yes, it's about time. In fact, we are late. And it's something that we should be talking about every day. Because the challenges, most of the challenges in the society, really, we can trace it back, to the neglect of how we bring up the boy child. So thank you.
Thank
you for coming on and helping us to fill this gap today.
I'm very grateful.
I want to know how you got to this point. So why did you choose to focus on the boy child?
I'm not the girl child.
Aha. With the Boy Child Transformation Center, which you set up, that's BTC, yes? And what gaps really did you notice in society, probably? I mean, that led you onto this.
Well, there are many forms, if I have to use those words. First, I'm a mom to 3 amazing gentlemen.
Amazing gentlemen.
Who are...
So you're well protected.
Yes, okay. Who are, teenagers to adults at this time. And more importantly for me is the fact that I've been very curious about, the society. Who would not say or who would not know or acknowledge the fact that even with crime rates, you can associate it to the boys or men, let me use those words now. I've been so worried that nobody's paying serious attention.
Yes.
And we are just neglecting a set that can pose or become very dangerous, as they are even at this time. So you can relate it to a lot of issues going on within the society. Poor leadership, bad role models,
yes.
Kidnapping, rape. And we have statistics to actually back that up. You go to the prisons today, 90% of the people that you see there are more men or boys than their female counterparts.
Yeah.
The crime rate is growing in a bad way that we have no choice but to begin to say to ourselves, what are we doing?
True.
It's important that we, focus on the girl children, but it's also very important, equally important that we do not neglect the set, that can become even worse if attention is not paid. So that's the reason why BTC, whose vision is basically to raise generation of boys that's got conscience, empathy, and living a purposeful life. So we want what we tried to do with BTC in 2021 was to actually become that intervention platform, or so to speak, a heaven where there is transformation and mentorship, for the boy children.
A heaven.
Yes.
A heaven for transformation and mentorship, because it really, really does grieve me, when on a daily basis you see these young people paraded for all kinds of crimes and criminalities. And the ages at this point gets, smaller.
Yes.
Before you would look at 18, 20, 21, 16. Now you're having under 10 really being involved in some dangerous activities. So what have you identified as the biggest challenges that face boys, during adolescence stage specifically, that are often overlooked when you compare to the female gender?
Yeah, I think most importantly, the major aspect is emotional suppression, where there is so much silence, you know, they would naturally act than speak. At that time, you know, you begin to actually ask yourself, or they toy with a lot of things. They become more creative in their ways of thinking, in their ways of acting, and so on and so forth. Because also the society has also wired I would say the society generally has wired it in such a way that as a man, there is a certain way that you need to act and you need to behave. You are strong. You don't have to. You need to man up. You don't need to show feelings. In fact, feelings is a sign of weakness, you know, and that stifles the sort of. It can also lead to some deficit around relationship, around your peers trying to tell you what to do. Even the wrong role models also helping you out in certain ways. That's why you will see little children lure other little children, you know, to the kidnapper's den. I watched a few days ago where a little boy was saying that, yes, they take them to so and so imam who cuts, who does this, and so on and so forth. When they don't, you know, talk to people around them about what is happening, you know, we are left with those sort of gaps that can lead them into becoming the sort of, I don't want to use negative words, people that they have naturally become. So the act of neglect, emotional suppression, nobody to talk to, nobody to mentor, the sort of empowerment as well that would naturally go to the female. Many years ago, you know, we also neglected the girl children until we found that it's actually very, very important to begin to look at them. But my story is basically, why just the girl children and not? There should be some sort of balance and reconditioning about who you are and what you need to do and the role that you play, not just for the future, because the boy children are raised in such a way, you know, that you need to become a man even as a child. You need to start teaching them how to become a man as a child and all of that. So the society has actually conditioned them in a certain way that they start behaving, you know, like that man that they are not yet, you know. And for me as well, it's easier to raise a decent boy children than to correct or to, you know, a grown man, or to actually shape him to become better. So it's always better to start from when they are quite young.
And really, that's where I think, you've talked about societal expectations and pressures.
Yes.
I think now we should be looking at what do we expect parents, or how do we expect our parents, you know, who are the first port of call, really, you know, first defense line, you know, so to speak. What would you expect, what role do you expect them to play in ensuring that their sons grow into responsible, emotional, intelligent men, and how? Because perceptions differ.
Yeah, true. So, you know, when a child turns right, you will say it's a father. When a child turns wrong, you say you blame it. That's what the society has made, especially those days that, you know, we were growing up. I think first and foremost is to have, especially fathers, to be the role models that, because your son would naturally look up to you at some point. We've seen cases where a man batters a woman and he says, after all, my father does this to my mother, so who are you that I cannot? I don't know. And a child who is living in that home watches the father and leaves tomorrow. It takes the grace of God, you know, for that child not to. So we need real role models. Leaders, fathers who also show that being emotional or being vulnerable is not a crime. You know, a woman would cry and let out, but for a guy, you said, stop crying. They have blood running through their own veins as well. So fathers must, yes, there should be, you know, where the discipline is done, all of that, but allow them, you know, to be human first. That's number one. Number two, moms or women should nurture, right, but not over pampering. The same sort of things that you expect from even the lady. And often those days we'll see women are in the kitchen cooking with their mothers. The guys are allowed to go have, you know, go out and come back very late. I think the movie that's making some sensation right now is Adolescence. I've just only watched just 1.5 episodes. So
I think you should watch it.
Yes, I'm going to watch it because people were calling my attention and all of that.
Movie.
A child is outside at 10:30 p.m. as a teenager, and all of that. So again, you begin. We're not also saying don't give them space to breathe and all of that, but try and be present in their life. A lot of parents are absent.
That's right.
And you allow the society to fill that gap that already exists within that particular relationship. So, but more importantly for me is the place of values. The values play a very key role within the family. So you're asking yourself, what sort of family are you trying to build? And what foundation, are you also trying to build that family upon? Do you have a family vision where, as a child is growing up, they understand what it means to be a family?
Yeah.
What are the guiding principles? Just like you have in organizations, you're also asking yourself, what are the guiding principles for us? Our principles are based on love, care, conscience. It shapes them at that particular young age.
If I may jump in here, the family, sometimes you find that the family can't do it alone.
Yes.
So what kind of models, or how can families and schools work together to provide the right support system for the adolescent boy?
I think there's a lot of synergy.
Yes.
While the family, models personal identity or identities for the children, the school also, focuses on socialization, where you are basically teaching principles, value-based principles, and so on and so forth, which we do not have even in the curriculum as we speak. The school also provides, mentorship. There are certain schools that you will also have. I recall one of my sons, during the time he was having some issues in school around his academics and all that. You are not even allowed to come and meet any teacher. You speak with the mentors, because the mentors there in the school are the people who probe, who they sit with, to basically the mentors ask them what they are going through, how is their mind working, what the issue, those open-ended questions. These are the counselors, more like, that you have. It should be put in various schools, even trauma centers as well, because some of these guys go through some traumas, but they bottle them in. And as soon as that bottling happens, the outcome is what you don't see. So I also watched a movie, I can't remember the name again, but it stops with me. I think it stops with us, where the lady, the guy unconsciously is very aggressive, and once that his eyes clears, he's pleading for forgiveness. He doesn't even, so until the lady started probing for what must have happened during childhood and so on and so forth. And you found out that he actually shot his brother mistakenly, and that hasn't left him. So a lot of boys or men actually, we need to get to a point where, even as a child, you're also trying to find out some of the trajectory or journeys and all of that, that may likely shape the way that they actually behave. Because for someone to behave this way, there must be a reason, or why that is happening. And then from there, you can then begin to take a step back and see what you can do to actually remedy the situation.
Great.
Wow, it's a lot of work.
A lot of work.
Because you do so much at home. The child probably goes to school, the boarding school, and it's a whole new ball game. You do not have control over what goes on there. Sure. So it's a societal challenge now. Many parents struggle. I've got this frog in my throat.
That's okay. I can hear you.
Many parents do struggle with understanding the emotional needs of their teenage sons. They struggle with it now. What practical advice can we have from you today, having worked with the adolescents for a while?
Okay, so when you talk about emotional needs, right, I think most importantly is, I will use my children, for example, because I've raised 3 of them. I have a 21-year-old, I have a 19-year-old going to 20, and then I also have a 16-year-old going to 17. So emotionally, the way I've handled it is open communication. Don't try to fix, try to listen. All right? Because at that time you want to begin to fix and say, okay, you're going through this. My mind, I'm thinking about, I recall one of my I think it's the last one, who says to me that he's not focusing very well. And the question for me was more of probing, asking questions. Has this happened before? What? Who are the people around you? And so on and so forth. With that probing, you can begin to get into deeper things, around why their mind is working the way it's working. Oh, there's so much noise in my room, and they all discuss girls, and I'm tired of hearing it. It gets me crazy. I mean, we talk that much, myself, and you have to be present, and you also ask questions. Yes. Okay, there's nothing wrong with talking about girls. What aspect of girls? But again, we're here to study. I said, but you can always mix it, so you also know, a little bit of this and all of that. And that's sort of, I would like to call it closeness, is also very, very important. Discuss the society, discuss role models. What we shouldn't try to do is to always talk them down, especially when there are issues, and then you begin to say, oh, you're a fool, you didn't do this right. Immediately you begin to say that emotionally they become the fools inside. I recall one of my sons, when he was struggling in his school, he had a lot of people in the school, so it was a big struggle for him. He was not doing well. And if out of the three of them, I felt that this one, I don't know what I'm going to do. But at some point, you take on this approach, you go on through this approach. But what I tried to do was using storytelling. I started telling him about myself. How, when I was in primary school, I wasn't the best and all of that. But it took me one day to just get up and say, hey, these guys are doing it. They just have one head, and I know I can. And I stopped shouting and saying, this is bad grade and all of that, but empathizing with them, because you also do not know what the noise, what the discussions around them could naturally be. And I saw that taking on this approach has made him a better person. For every boy child, there is a huge potential. There is something good about your child, whether you like it or not. We must always learn to focus on the positives than the negative. And I bet you this child of mine, or this son of mine, he's doing brilliantly well in school, even at this time. So tapping in and being present, asking questions, the ones that you can't solve, but you have to also be patient as a parent. The ones you can't solve, look for that role model. Look for somebody who sometimes we all look up to. It could be the father, it could be, and also ask the father, have you noticed the withdrawal around this child? Have you noticed he's not eating well, he's losing weight? Have you noticed he's not coherent in what he is saying? Because those are the signs. Have you noticed how aggressive he is about certain things? Those are the signs you need to actually look out for, and then begin to probe into why and how, and then some of those problems can be solved. Because
if you miss that,
yes,
it impacts on their mental health.
Exactly.
And mental health is a big deal.
Yes.
If you get to that stage.
Yes.
So what I want to know is that with the increasing concerns about mental health, right? How can we create safe spaces for boys and for them to be able to express their emotions without fear of judgment?
Yeah. I think, it's like I did talk about empathy. That's number one, to also show them that you can make mistakes. It's right to actually make mistakes.
And you can cry.
And you can cry. That's number one. Number two, they need to also feel safe, like you rightly said. Yeah. So that safety comes with people who they want people who they can actually trust.
Yes.
I know that discussing this, I'm safe. I know that discussing this, you mean well for me. And they can see that. Because okay, so a typical example of what some of the models we use for BTC is what we adopted it from a call to men in the US. They have this man box, but what we try to call ours is macho box. Okay. So where a man feels, this, and this is the way. So I have to dominate for me to lead. Girls are like, or women are objects, you know. Fear is nothing, you know. So I cannot, what's the word now? I have to be aggressive to cover my fear and all of that. What we try to do is to provide that safe place for you to come in, and we take you through this macho box and the outcomes. You know, it can land you in the cell.
Yeah.
It can make you become mad on the street, like being on drugs and so on and so forth. You can be arrested, and we show you people who have started out well and who have made a mistake and where it has gotten them to. Part of the plan that we eventually wanted to do at that time was to take them to the prisons so they can also see what is happening there. And for little things that may just be association or you were not involved, you can actually get.
So you show them
the wrong side of macho. But we also present. There's another word we also call it. From macho box to another box, you know, I'll come back to that, where it is the opposite and you flip it. That's where transformation literally happens, where your mindset is very important. You need to have some level of integrity. You need to also begin even by asking yourself, why am I here? Which is around your self-discovery. What's my purpose? What are the values, you know, man-track, that's what we call it, from macho to man-track. So putting you right on track, you know, and it is that transformative system that you actually go through that helps you. We do things around strategic life, you know, training, you know, or what I call planning, where, for example, we're also asking you, who are you? Who do you think you are? We put pictures across, and you know, you talk to us about what you understand around that, and also why do you think is necessary. But most importantly is to see the vision, because first and foremost, you need to even say to yourself, this is who I want to become. These are the goals that I can set to actually make me get there, right? And these are the guiding principles that can actually help me to actually make my journey even easier and better for me.
Awesome. We have about 10 minutes more to go. An eye on the boy child. Very interesting conversation this morning. But we'll just take a breather right now. Take a break so I can take some water.
That's fine.
And, and you can also settle in when we come back. It's Today with John and Helen. Please, please, please don't change the channel. We'll be back before you know it. Stay with us.
So thanks for staying with us. This is Today with John and Helen, live from Plus TV Africa here in Lagos. So she's still with us, our guest, our final guest on the show today, Nkiruka Joel, founder BCT Center, that's the Boy Child Transformation Center. So Nkiruka, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
This has been quite an eye-opener.
Yes.
You know, we've looked at what we would say has been relatively ignored, you know, attention on the boy child. So, and you've revealed quite a lot. So I would want, Helen, yes.
Yeah, but you see, the thing about talking on issues like this, the moment the professional is coming up with solutions, you know, you're finding yourself, you know, the loopholes, the things that you as a parent, you know that you should be doing. They find it difficult at some point, you know, to do. So thank you for letting us know that it's possible.
Yes.
And we need to work harder. Now, what are the warning signs? I know you touched on one or two of them, but let's have a few more. The warning signs, signs of distress in adolescent boys specifically, and how can parents or caregivers intervene effectively?
Sure. Okay, so the warning signs are quite, sometimes you don't even know if you don't pay close attention. And that's the reason why I said parents must be very present. So you're present because you will easily notice that your child is gradually withdrawing. There is some level of withdrawal. There are certain conversations he doesn't want to have around you or around the siblings. So withdrawal is absolutely the very first one, I would say, is unnecessarily, you know, silent around people. his grades, are beginning to dwindle. And then every little thing, he's aggressive and he shouts, or he doesn't even want people around him. Those are the warning signs, and we need to look out for those. And it's either, there are people around him that are encouraging him to do something that he's not used to, or he's struggling or battling with something which his mind does not necessarily want him, or which he doesn't really want to do. Okay. Or he's always focusing on his phone. Pay attention when a child is always on the phone. There's food to eat, but I would rather be on the phone 24/7, even while I'm also eating, and it's not that behavior wasn't there as much as, but the withdrawal is a huge sign for parents to actually take note of.
Yeah, and I also hear that withdrawal like that sometimes may be as a result of what we call the teenage blues.
Yeah.
And it's even worse.
It's worse, yeah.
With boys. Yeah. I know that if we go into that topic, it's an unending piece.
Yes, I can tell you.
But now let's come back to you. You've done quite a lot of work, and really I must praise you. You have 3 full-grown gentlemen in your arms. But let's look at your book, the Made in Heaven.
Yes.
And through is it the Made Forum?
Made Forum, yeah.
The Made Forum.
Yeah.
And you emphasize self-discovery and transformation in that book. How can boys be guided, towards self-awareness and personal growth?
Okay. So the book Made in Heaven, was born also out of issues, especially it wasn't necessarily for the boy children or for the boys, but for women.
Okay, for women.
Yeah. So
because boys are made in heaven.
Everybody, literally we are all made in heaven. But most importantly is for us to understand who we are. So first is self-awareness. Yeah. Understand that that's a reason for. Just like we have the banks exist for something, we're here, we're communicating, right? We're doing it for a purpose. Then every one of us exists for a purpose. So, but not a lot of us. Someone used to say there are two very serious dates in your life, not the time you're born and the time you're dead, but the time you're born and then when you discover the reason why you're even existing in the first instance. So for us, especially the Made Forum, you come in there, we start with asking questions or even trying to make you understand that you are made for a reason. Not a lot of people get to hear that in school or even understand that, that there is what we call a life purpose. There's what we call personal identity. There are other, things that come with that, where you're doing a self-discovery. You're asking yourself, who can I become? What has happened to me in the past? That's always, we call it, there's a model we call always already listening. What are the blind spots? What are the vicious circles, that I'm really thick. I mean, like the blind circles, blind spots are things you don't even know that other people know about you, because your parents are the ones who will discover that you're withdrawing, but you may think it's actually very normal, that nothing is literally happening. So some of those things, and we also teach the act of intentionality, because you have to be very intentional for you to achieve a lot of strides as a human being or as a boy, whether you are young or you're old. But most importantly is the aspect of integrity. And integrity is the most important thing. Now, a lot of people associate integrity with just morals or ethics, but it's way beyond that. Integrity speaks to wholeness of your being. So, for example, I have a car, and the car is moving from point A to point B. But if the one tire is flat, I will never get to that destination So integrity teaches you the essence of being whole. So for a child that is good, we break it down, like ABC, where you need to. In fact, by your own self, you can define those values that you think can become your guiding principles. We did a Walk in My Shoes program last year, where we also attached boys to mentors. So, and it was focused on core values. We had them begin to understand what core values is all about and have them do that with acronyms, so that even when they're at home, For example, I can say my core values is the acronym for that is SOAR, which is SOAR. So spirituality, optimistic or optimism or whatever it is. So you can relate certain things so that it's it's there. Every day you're growing. I know part of my core values is love. That means I must show love. Is empathy. That means I must, when things happen to somebody, I'm also, mantra. It's a mantra. Yes, you're also asking, why did this happen? It can be me, so how can I help? Yeah. But most importantly for this platform is how we raise generation of boys that's got conscience, that has got empathy, and understand that there is a reason why they exist, so they're living that purposeful, life and all of that. Yes.
All right. So a mother is listening and watching right now, and she says, "How do I access? I probably have a son who is tending towards being difficult. Yeah. How do I come to people like you?"
Well, our lines are open. We can chat us up, get through to us online through our website, boychildtransformation.org.
Is your center living?
No, it is virtual, but we have programs, and we also partner with organizations, or I partnered with the First Lady, I think 2022 or 2023, where I just basically did moderation for her, because you also have the Boy Child Initiative, where they empower boys as well, and all of that. So I'm available, or we are available. You call us, and we've had parents call in. We've had parents attend our program. We have one that is also coming up on the, that May is the month that we also remember the boy children, just like we do for the girls. So May 16th is always separated for the remembrance and empowering and acknowledging that these boys also have struggles, and which is the most important thing. They also have struggles. They are quite vulnerable, but they mask the vulnerability, and our society, we look at masculinity from the very myopic lens, where, leadership should exist without vulnerability. There should be strength without, sensitivity or emotion and all of that. So those things are things that we also try to correct. First and foremost,
those my age also welcome to this.
It's not so easy to fix a broken. Sorry, I'm not saying you're broken, but I'm saying to fix it. to fix that. So it's easier to actually raise them. So from ages 5, we have them in three groups. Harvey, J, Kell.
So you would rather have them in their formative
ages.
So ages 5 to
10, 5 to 9, 10 to 15, and then 16 to 19.
Good.
Yeah, okay. Harvey, J, Kell.
Yes. Thank you so much. Certainly, this has been very useful. Adolescence and I on the Boy Child.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for coming. Thank you.
Welcome.
I'm totally blown away. That was absolutely essential, you must say.
Thank you.
And we will definitely make time to have
we should have this
have you back on the show from time to time.
Anytime.
Thank you
so much for having me. Thank you.
All right. And finally, before we go, John's Nugget, if we have the time for it. And the nuggets usually is for leaders and public good now.
Yeah, I was going to take you up. I was going to take you up on if we have time for it.
Oh, sorry.
Of course we have time for the nuggets. Yeah.
Let's have it.
So the nugget for today is this: risk takers know that there is nothing wrong with the occasional failure. And that's because great leaders and executives understand that taking risks is an essential part of success. In speech and leadership, the ability to take bold steps, whether addressing high-stakes audience or negotiating a critical deal or even inspiring a team, defines true impact. Occasional failure is not a setback, we must know. It's a lesson. And every misstep in communication sharpens clarity, enhances confidence, and it builds resilience. And the best public speakers weren't always perfect anyway, and they refined their skills through trial, feedback, and persistence. So embrace the challenge. Speak with conviction. take strategic risks, and understand that a moment of failure is just a stepping stone towards mastery. Leadership isn't about avoiding mistakes, it's about learning, adapting, and rising stronger every time you speak. And that would be my nugget for today.
And thank you so much, John, for the nuggets. And today has been another victory. Every day in this nation or in the world is a miracle. And so we thank you for being a part of our miracle today, of the experience that is Today with John and Helen live on Plus TV Africa. We've had the conversation with Elizabeth and Hilary, you know, showing us the path to taking care of the elderly, and just rounding it up with a very important area of our lives, catching the boys young and nurturing them to become the men that the society deserves and desires. Thank you for being a part of the show, Amongma. Helen Odele. I never introduced myself at the beginning.
You did earlier.
I did, I just forgot. And they talked about dementia, I hope. We'll see you same time next week. Don't mind me.
And I'm I'll see you again next week. I'm out.